Now, back in the day, most of us were raised up on the same idea of what it meant to be a man. A strong provider who never said much and never complained, and just kind of handled whatever was thrown his way. And that blueprint came directly from our dads. And as a result, most of us chose to build our lives around it. But fast forward today, and the problem is this: that old blueprint that so many of us have lived our lives by, it doesn't fit today's world anymore. You see, society doesn't look up to that kind of strength in men anymore. For whatever reason, they've actually grown to resent it. So as a result, your wife nowadays, she doesn't just want a provider anymore. She wants a partner too. Somebody who's emotionally supportive as well. And as for you, well, most of the very things that your dad taught you about being a man have been relabeled as toxic masculinity now. And meanwhile, you keep hearing about this new version of manhood, but nobody seems to really be able to tell you what the hell it is. And here's the hardest part in all this. You're stuck somewhere right in the middle. And you're feeling like a failure at being the man that your dad raised you and taught you to be. And on the other hand, you're feeling like a fraud for trying to be whatever the hell they want you to be nowadays. And you're trying to do everything for everybody just right. But it seems no matter what you do, it'll never be enough. But the worst part is what this is doing to all your relationships. So when you try to pass down what your father taught you to your son just stares at you like you're speaking some kind of foreign language. Because to him, old sayings like just tough it out or man up, they don't register as being strong anymore. He views it like you've already mentally walked away. And when you're always rigid and you never seem to speak up, people don't take that as resilience anymore. They just see a guy who's shut down and hard to read. It seems like nowadays everybody wants to be so much more in tune with their damn feelings. Not realizing that for most men, opening up still feels a lot like weakness. Reality is, when you do try to keep everything inside, it doesn't make you stronger. It just makes you numb and calloused. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. Just pick your poison wisely. I can just remember back in the day, getting my father's approval on something, man. That kind of felt like hitting the lottery to me. It was something I didn't get a lot, and when I got it, boy. But nowadays, these kids can barely look up for them damn phones long enough to even acknowledge that they have a father. And that respect that you thought you would just naturally get from providing and showing up and, working. Nope. That's a thing of the past too. So nowadays, you're doing twice the work that your dad did and you're getting half the credit for it. And then on top of all that, there's this weird thing happening between you and your son that you can't quite put your finger on. But you know that gap between you and him is getting wider and wider. And even though you're doing the exact same thing with him that your dad did with you, it's not working. That's because old keys don't open new locks. And you know in your heart that your dad wouldn't even recognize this watered down version of a man that you've been forced to become. And your son, he doesn't get it either. He's still looking at you like you're some caveman throwback from the past. And there you are, stuck somewhere in the middle, watching both of those relationships slowly die. And the irony in all this is, you're losing your son simply because you're trying to be the man that your dad raised you to be. But what if I told you that none of this was your fault? And there actually is a way out of this mess. First off, let's get this out here. There's nothing wrong with you. The game just got changed and nobody gave you the new rule book. You see, your dad's way of being a man, it worked. It fit the world that he lived in. It just doesn't fit the world that you're living in now. And you don't have to make a choice between being the man that your dad wanted you to be or being someone that you don't even recognize. You can build something new, a hybrid version of yourself, so to speak, a persona that works for you and today's world. Something that you can actually live with and maybe even be proud of. What you do is you keep the fundamental parts, right? The core things that you feel make you a man, the things that you just are not willing to give up, the work ethic, responsibility, and the mental toughness, things like that. And then just get rid of the rest, the things that society now looks down on. Silence and the stubbornness, the emotional walls, and the hyper independence. See, when you do that, you become a modern, updated version of yourself, so to speak. You 2.0. Reality is, your son doesn't need you to be one way or the other, not old school or new school. He needs you to be both. And nowadays, that's non-negotiable, fellas. And then, when you get a chance, sit down with your son and have a hard, heart-to-heart talk with him. And let him know, hey, this shit's new to me. I'm struggling with it. This whole modern man thing, it's new to me. And know that admitting that isn't a sign of weakness. I mean, dealing with your own feelings actually, instead of ignoring them, that's a sign of strength. It's way harder than anything our fathers ever had to do. You see, that's a skill that most men back in the day never learned. That's why they didn't hand it down to us. They didn't deal with their feelings. So fast forward to today. I guess in reality, it is possible to be the provider and still be there emotionally for your family too. Remember too, nowadays, you can talk about your feelings without being considered as a wussy like we were back in the day. And it's finally okay to stop measuring yourself against that old, outdated version of manhood. It doesn't exist anymore, and it doesn't work either. You're not fighting your dad's fight anymore. Hell, we're fighting a brand new one, and you're fighting it on two fronts. So go ahead and build a version of manhood that works for you and the life that you're living right now. You see, your dad did the best with what he knew and what he had at the time. Now, you got to do the same. And the one thing that you do know for sure, the old ways don't work anymore. And that's nobody's fault. Reality of life is, and always will be, time will always move forward, not backwards. If you have any thoughts or comments or anything you'd like to add to this, please, by all means, drop them below and let's talk about them. This seems to be a big debate in our society. What being a man means now versus what it meant back in the day. And I guess I get it. It's a fluid definition. You know, it's going to be forever changing now. It's never going to be one blanket statement that covers everybody like it was back in the day. And perhaps it shouldn't have been like that back then. You know, some things that applied then are going to apply today and always will apply. And know too that the definition for man is going to be different for each one of us because we each are different and we each have different beliefs and needs. So that's something to consider too. Don't look at another guy and say, well, that's not a man. That's not your definition of a man. But hey, please, by all means, I want to hear what you guys think about this. I've got some thoughts, but I'm going to hold off on them until we can all get together and talk about it. But at any rate, I'm Unc. Take care of yourself and each other. Kindness, love, respect. We all need a little more of these. But at any rate, I'll catch you guys in the next one.